We are experiencing a time of transformation. How can we begin to rewrite our story? I'm Chelsea, and this is the Amara Ritual Podcast. Join me as we journey together through our inner landscape and begin to create outer change. Welcome, and welcome back to the Amara Ritual Podcast. I am here with a very special sister and woman, Paola. And today we're going to we're going to dive into a conversation and really speak on what's been alive for us at this time, especially as, so much is shifting and changing. And, before we dive in, Paola is an artist and designer. You are a mentor, and I see you as this wisdom keeper. You are such a clear, potent channel, and when you speak, I really feel the wisdom and the embodied, like integrated wisdom from your words, and when you speak, it's medicine. And I truly am honored to have this conversation with you today. you know? And something that you have shown me is I feel like you really live your life embodied in all aspects, right? It's like you really do see your life as an altar and this sacredness to life in everything that you do, right? And so I just feel the sacredness that's going to come through in this conversation. We can already feel the energy right before we got on. And we started talking, and we were like, we just have to press record. Like it's coming through, right? So welcome, Paola.
Thank you, Chelsea. It's such a gift to get to, the conversations that we have are always such medicine, are always really potent. They expand us, they activate us, they invigorate us, they nourish us, they empower us. And, to get to bring this to and extend it, to those of you that are listening. And it's just such a gift to get to be with you, Chelsea, and then also to get to be with those of you that are tuning in here with us.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's a co-creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you and I are having this conversation and sharing these messages, but it, I believe, is co-created between all of us, even those that are watching and will receive this too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, even before we press record, we were talking about, what do we want to speak on? What messages want to come through? Like what's alive for us right now? We've known collectively what we're moving through, right? This shift, this evolution, and we've known, about these times that we're in, that this collapse of all that cannot come with us, right? And everything rising to the surface, and really like even as much as consciously, if you have an understanding of what's happening, still the magnitude of when it's actually happening, um, through this transformation, it's like, how do we show up? Like, what are we being called into? And yeah, I've been feeling this real call towards authenticity, towards rawness, towards simplifying, like I'm seeing like clearing through debris and clutter. And like I've been gardening so much, and I've been literally pulling weeds and debris and just clearing to make space for the most clear vessel that I feel that we can be, and just come back to the basics at this time in order to feel that clarity and show up and serve in the ways that I know that we're being called forth to, right? And that so many of us are being called forth to at this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Yeah. The, the thing about this is that, like you said, these are the times that we're in right now. And just for context of those of you listening, today is June 14th, 2025. Shit is fucking crazy. And there's so many different aspects of that craziness, different aspects, different layers, different expressions of what we are experiencing in these times, not only as individuals, but also what we're experiencing as a collective, what's happening in, one of the things that I shared and was really connecting to last week is that, we're seeing it in like we'll call it the political upheaval that is happening in multiple parts of the world. Not only are we experiencing that, we're also experiencing massive amounts of um, input that's being put out through the media that we're consuming. Not, I wouldn't even say on a daily basis, like on a momentary basis, what we're consuming hour per hour, coming from different ways, different platforms, different things that are happening around the world. Also, what we're experiencing in regards to the climate of this earth, the way that the earth is speaking, the way that we are also as individuals transforming day in and day out, being exposed to such massive amounts of transformation, massive amounts of grief, massive amounts of distortion, massive amounts of illusion. And all of these things are happening day in and day out. And so it's important that we become aware of that we give ourselves just so much compassion in the fact that so many of us are literally, if you're listening to this podcast, you're most likely one of those people that you are choosing to be aware of yourself, being conscious of yourself, doing your own personal work, doing your own work of healing, of empowering yourself, of desiring to lead forward, while also choosing to keep yourself aware and conscious of everything that is happening in the world. You're doing all of that and you're wanting to serve and you're taking care of yourself and you're choosing to show up every single day. Let's just take a moment of compassion and grace for ourselves, because damn. And these are literally the times that we have been sitting in ceremony for. These are the times that we've been giving offerings for. These are the times that we've been choosing to heal for, so that we can, like you said, Chelsea, get to show up, not only to get to show up as the most clear vessel, but also to get to show up and, through the journeys that we've all been through, have even more clarity of what is it that we actually value in this life. Because as we are being bombarded with information and insights and perspectives, and like I said, everything that is happening in the world, it is important for us to get to simplify ourselves and get to simplify our life. Like, what is it that we actually value? Because otherwise our energy and our input and our actions can go to so many different places, and we are one human being. But the more that each one of us individually can tune into what is the most authentic for us, what it is that we value, and getting really clear of what our own individual role and genius and medicine and like spice and like, secret sauce that we're bringing to the whole mix is, the more clear we can be, the more empowered we can be, and also the more properly oriented we're going to be, not just for each present moment, but also as we continue to move forward and lead.
So beautifully said.
Mhm.
So potently said. That's exactly how it feels. And like when you were speaking, I just saw this image of like us like kind of like being like naked and like coming into the earth as like this seed, right? And it's like beginning, we're about to sprout, right? But until we do that, we have to be this like seated and this
Mhm.
really clear, from this really clear place, um like completely dissolving from everything that we are not. But it does, I mean, it feels, there's so much shifting and so much changing, and like you said, so much coming up, right, from all these different places. And yeah, I the other day I was here and I was like, all right, all right, God, I'm here to serve, right? I'm
Mhm.
here to serve. How? Show me. And it was just this feeling of like the less is more, just share your messages, share your heart, be you, right? You know, it's like it doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. Like we don't have to show up as this perfect human and try to have everything figured out. We're not necessarily meant to at this time. Like we're all walking through this together,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm,
so it's really, it's about coming into this deepened aspect of our truth
mhm,
and discerning, really discerning, like what is the noise, what needs to be seen, what needs to be cleared, like what should I listen to, what should I, you know?
mhm,
And I
mhm,
think we've often been taught that life is linear.
mhm,
And I think at this time, like we are being asked to just more so be in this, right? And from that point, it's like one day you may be feeling like so ready, like I got this, like I know exactly what I want to hear and pour into. And the next day you might be in your bed grieving, right? And then the next day you might be feeling confusion. And then the next day you might be with sisters and feel again that empowerment of like being in that sisterhood and the medicine of coming together. And the next day, right? And I think there's this messiness that's happening right now collectively. And I don't necessarily, I think honestly, it's part of the process because it wants us. It's getting so loud and so messy that a lot of us have no other choice but to just undress from it all and just become that seed, if that's making sense, right? That's just how it feels, right?
mhm. Yeah, and just from it's I'm picking up what you're putting down,
Yeah,
Chelsea.
it's like,
I'm picking and
become the seed, you know?
the thing with this, I feel from an energetic standpoint, what it is that and I've been tuning into this for, I would say, probably like 2 years. I was joking about it. A year ago, I was like still joking about it. This year, I'm like, holy shit. And it's the fact that, we used to say the term or the sentence of like, oh my God, the veil is thinning.
Yeah.
Like, and now there is no veil.
Mhm. You said that and I just felt it.
There is, yeah, there is no veil. We are becoming more present, aware to the interconnectedness of everything and the
Everything.
interconnectedness that we all hold within each other. And so, as what you're saying, right, it's that like we're literally, and this is, for those of you that are like sensitive beings, we've been healing. What does healing do? It takes layers off of our being so that we can
Mhm.
become more sensitive, so that we can feel more, which is we are feeling more of our interconnectedness. There's, at this point, it's you cannot look away from everything that is happening. And even if you don't see it, even if you don't hear about it, you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And so when you're feeling everything, and when you're seeing everything that you are connected to, the one thing that will bring you clarity, empowerment, and orientation is to come to the center and say, who am I? What do I
Mhm.
value? And how am I being called to serve?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because, like you said, we are, in fact, literally, it's like layers and layers and layers and layers are just like being completely, they're falling off of us. But they're not just falling off of us individually, they're falling off of the entire human, like within our entire human consciousness. We're
Yeah.
expanding at a very rapid rate that many
Yeah.
of our minds, they're with it, our spirits, they're with it, our bodies, might not be fully ready and might still be moving through a process of recalibration, which is why we're experiencing, and I say this for myself, and I know that this is happening for a lot of people. And to those of you that are listening, perhaps you can be like, yeah, that's I've been up and down like crazy. Like I'm up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world. Hey. And then the other day you're like, what the is happening?
Yes.
And moments where you're feeling like perhaps you're losing your fucking mind. And the truth is to the point exactly, Chelsea, is that we're meant to.
Yes.
And in those moments, what do? We come back to the center. We come back to,
Yes.
again, who am I? What do I value? And how am I being called to serve? And, in this specifically is that, just like giving off like different examples in the different things that we're being that are, I don't want to say being thrown at us, but the different things that we're being exposed to when it comes through like social media, the media, solar flares, like, chemicals that are being sprayed like on like in the air that we breathe, along with the like weather modification that is also impacting like the plate tectonics of the earth itself, just like really presence that. I feel really called to presence everything that we're being exposed to in this moment.
Yeah.
Not only does that give us like allow us to have a door for greater compassion, but also a door of greater responsibility to become closer to our core center, which is what it is for us to be authentic, right? I feel
Even
you
as you're
flowing. Go off.
speaking. Well, no, I was just gonna say, because even as you were speaking, there were sirens going off
Mhm.
that I could hear. And you're like, be present to, and it was like these sirens, even that noise, that is happening in the environment, it's like constant.
And we've known that, right? Like there's so many ways that we have conceptualized that to we're like, oh yes, like me being with me and me knowing my center, me knowing who I am, that is one of the greatest contributions that I can make to this world. And yet we still want to go and have all of the answers and do all the things.
Yeah.
We, as in I, as in ask me how I know where this is coming from, right? And just one little side note on all of this is that there's a very genuine desire that shows up for me, and that I feel like shows up for a lot of people that desire to be of service, to do the right thing, to say the right thing, and to have the answers.
Yes. Yep.
And those things, again, it's a beautiful, very noble, honorable desire to have,
Yeah.
because we give a shit. We
Yeah.
care
Because
about
we
the earth.
care.
Yeah, we care about the earth. We care about humanity. Like we
Mhm.
look at everything that is happening in the world and we're also like, yo, but like be the light. Like how can I, and that comes through, and that can come through in ways in which we really desire to have all of the answers, to say like this is how this is all going to end, or this is how we are going to move forward, and the truth is that we're not meant to.
Yeah. We're not meant to. Like even as a channel or an oracle, or if you're super psychic and you have feelings of how this is all going to play out, none of us have all the answers.
Mhm.
Even when you feel so in tune with your truth and who you are, and even then you will never have all the answers. But it's about the trust, right? It's like that's the difference. It's like the trust and the knowingness of being okay of not having the answers, and knowing that if I just show up to the best that I can every day, that is enough. That being is enough. that,
Mhm.
you know, when I feel called to rest, I rest. When I feel called to show up in this way, I show up in this way, right?
Mhm.
But like you
Mhm.
said, like the veil is thin, the illusions are, you know, being stripped away. And even like wanting to show up and be in this perfected way is an illusion as well, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
we're all moving through it, no matter who you are. You
Mhm.
know, all of us, and no matter your awareness or how spiritually evolved you are, we're all moving through it to our own capacity or degree, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things to add to that, well, there's two. One of them is that as it like in relation to like leadership and authenticity and how it is that we're being called to serve, like each of us, right?
Mhm.
The an old paradigm of leadership, right? To those of us that are like feeling like really that call of like, okay, how is it that I'm being called to lead? Like I'm being called to lead and just being authentic. And this is how it shows up day in and day out. The old paradigm of leadership says you need to have all of the answers. You need to have all of the answers because people are going to follow you. And the new paradigm of leadership, or rather, perhaps a more heart led paradigm of leadership, says you're not meant to have all of the answers because you are here to co create. And so, Chelsea, you got some codes that I don't get. I
That's
got
for
some
sure.
and I'm getting some codes that maybe you're not getting. And like so and so is, like Shai is getting some other codes, right? Like we are all getting different codes. And one of the beautiful things about it is that the more that we can come into this acceptance that we are not going to have all of the answers, but the ones that we do have and the insights that we do have, we get to bring it to the table. We get to bring it to the table and have these conversations with our sisters, with our family, with our communities. And that is also a big part of how not only you are going to lead, I am going to lead, we are going to lead. That's the way that all of us really get to lead. And that's a really important thing to remember in these times is that every single one of us, and again, this is something that we've all known. She's like, we're all so unique. We all hold a different, and it's just, but really though, like, for real, everybody, truly, let's really let that sink in.
Yeah.
What you receive that might feel like you don't have all of the pieces to the puzzle, bring it to the table and stop trying to figure out the puzzle by yourself.
Yes. Or trying to fit into somebody else's mold.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like the individuality is the medicine, is the beauty, is the like that is the
Mhm.
co-creation, or you know, not individuality because we are of this greater whole, but I say this all the time. We truly do. We are a piece of this greater whole.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel that, you know, you don't have to lead a movement or do a podcast or show up in these certain ways to serve. The way that we serve, like you were saying, it's in our day to day. It's in the conversations. It's in the way that we are a friend and a mother, and the way that we stand up for someone or, you know, speak our truth. It's in the way that the raw moments of every day is when it's happening. And like, yes, this podcast is like an expression, like we're having these conversations, but it's to activate something within us and within those who are watching. It's a remembrance
Mhm.
so that then when we're done watching this podcast, we are in our life, and like how do we show up? Like that is where it's at. And I think that a lot of people can maybe get wrapped up in the how, like you said, and we're not necessarily maybe even meant to know the how. Some, you know, we know the how maybe one or two steps ahead, of how we're being called to be and to show up, but it's an unfoldment and it's forever unfolding. It will always just continue to unfold. If we knew the end of the book, we wouldn't read it. But we know what the book's about, you know? We know what the book's about. So yeah, it's the I recently shared, how I was feeling called to like this deepening of presence and being in the present moment. And I feel like so many people were like, yes, 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 because so many people are like life tired of the way that we've been doing things and conditioned to do things. And so I think many people right now, when they're feeling that resistance and they're feeling like, this doesn't feel good anymore. Oh, those growing pains, I think that we've been taught to believe there's something wrong with us when in reality, that's actually that's coming through to show us what's no longer working and like where we're headed, right?
Yeah.
Like so many people called to like simplify their schedule, simplify like kind of like whatever it might be, maybe tune out of a lot of the news or social media. Like sometimes if I'm scrolling and I get that feeling that I'm just feeling like it's pulling energy from me, then that's my sign, stop, stop, right? That's the subtle like intuitive energy shifts that we feel throughout our day that are helping us navigate where to go next, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And my goodness, this is so juicy. Um, but it's just like really speaking to it's just really speaking to the subtleties of it all, because like just kind of like bringing it, taking it to where you first started on this is that like how we are in contribution and how we lead is how we choose to lead in our day to day. And there's there's different layers to it. And one of them is like just let's just remember again, let's just bring it back here that we're all connected, right? And so if we're all connected, and I'm saying this just for myself right now, again, like June 16th, I think I said 14th earlier, it's June 16th, June 16th, 2025, I'm in Costa Rica, and my family's in Arizona. Shit's happening all over the world. What do I do? I'm in a beautiful, beautiful home with the lake view, insanely blessed and privileged in my life. I'm seeing things about wild bills passing that are being, covered up by, I mean, it's kind of like taking it to the point where like, you see everything that's happening in the media, not in the media, what's happening in the world. And the way that that also takes our attention in a different direction when there's things happening behind closed doors and there's things happening under the rug. Right. And so there's like the part of me that's like, I need to become aware of these bills that are wanting to be passed. What senates do I even call? Like, what is this bill like even like what what does this all do? What does this all mean? Right? Like,
Mm.
oh, there's like protests happening in LA. Oh, there's raids happening in Arizona. Okay, what do I actually tend to
Yeah.
in my own privileged and blessed, miracle, beautiful, incredible life?
Hmm.
And it's not the intention to say, I'm just going to go ahead and tune out like everything that is happening, but rather for us to become aware, like, okay, this is all happening. And what are the stories and what are the wars that I have still within myself that I can sit with and give myself greater compassion? Because again, we are all connected. So any external war or any internal war is going to be reflected back to us outside of ourselves. Everything that is happening is a reflection of our human consciousness, is a reflection of all of the bullshit and all of the trauma and all the separation and all of the pain and all of the suffering, as well as all of the beauty and all of the power and all of the collective like togetherness and justice and magic and fucking medicine that we all are. Like everything that we're seeing right now is a reflection of that. And so at a consciousness, at a conscious level, how do we show up and how do we how do we protest? How do we resist? How do we become empowered? And how do we contribute on a day to day is first and foremost, how are you showing up for yourself?
Mhm.
Are you being hard on yourself? Are you judging yourself? Are you comparing yourself? Again, what like it's so much of it, like first and foremost, a big part of our duty for those of us, again, that are not in like in the direct places where things are happening right now. I mean, it's happening no matter what everywhere, right? But um it's not centralized physically in where I'm at right now, right? So in that, the question becomes, how do I dissolve any separation, any illusion, distortion, or war within myself,
Mhm.
about myself, through myself, so that I can contribute to the unification, to the preservation of the sacredness of our human consciousness, because we're all connected. And one more and one safer person in our collective experience does tilt us towards a
Yeah,
more human, safer, and more harmonious world.
yeah. It's bigger, the impact is bigger than people realize.
Mhm,
And that's also why things are being amplified right now, is because so many people have been doing that inner shifting within, that it's going like this now, and it's going to kind of shift to the other side, right? It's like I'm seeing it's like almost this balancing act, right? And like it's true. I think that as well of like the most potent place to show up is actually within and within your community and your family,
mhm,
right? That's
mhm,
start there. So that
mhm,
that is like start there. And then if you have the means to expand, then you have the means to expand. But like that is the magnitude of that.
mhm,
I always think about how like we can't skip that step.
mhm,
Like you can't build a house on a shaky foundation. You can't just put a band-aid on something or, elect a new political leader if everyone still is on this shaky foundation. Like to create sustainable, lasting change, you have to rebuild from the inside out. And that's what's happening, right? And so there's going to be people that choose not to look within. There's going to be people that are, still operating within these ways of judgment and hatred. And then there's going to be people that are starting to their awareness is starting to expand and they're seeing how, oh, wow, like how, you know, their inner world is or their outer world is a reflection of all of our inner being, right?
mhm,
And I don't think we ever arrive. I think maybe one day, who knows, but I've not experienced that yet. Even just last weekend, I was at an event where I noticed myself judging the people, that were there. And I realized it was a reflection of my own inner stuff, right? And I was grappling with this awareness at this event. And
mhm,
was like, wow, here I am. Like, how am I to expect like others not to judge when here I am judging this experience, right?
mhm,
And it's one thing to have your feelings on something, but it's another thing if it's like just pure judgment, and it often is stemming from something within us, right? And
mhm,
so I am it's a it's definitely a path where you're always discovering and unfolding more, and that judgment starts to dissipate, right? The more aware you are of these things, and this is just one example, right? But the path is not to be perfect or arrive, but it's that this unfoldment where we're continually being shown, right? We're continually being shown, and it's like this, like you said, this unraveling, this unbecoming, this onion being stripped of layer after layer after layer until we are fully delayered, right? Is how I
Mhm.
see it. And so, yes, externally, we're seeing these shifts and we're seeing everything coming to this culmination point, this, and simultaneously, a lot of people are, everybody is experiencing these shifts within, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it's,
Mhm. Have you ever listened to or tuned into the work of Grace Lee Boggs?
no,
Oh my God, everybody get you on some Grace Lee Boggs. She is amazing. And I actually, as I'm sharing this with you
I
right
don't know.
now, I get to go back and dive into some of her things. But she literally was beyond her time. Or perhaps not, because one of the things that will become, or has, or perhaps if it hasn't yet already become clear to all of us, is that this shit has been happening forever. Like we've
Mhm,
been in this forever, and but our exposure to it all is much more present now than it ever has.
mhm,
But Grace Lee Bogg was an activist, and she has a talk specifically, and she wrote a book as well, but her work is around a world that is more human.
mhm,
And the reason why I'm asking you this is because she spoke to, in my words, is that again, old paradigm of leadership is like you have to go far and wide to make an impact.
mhm,
And she says what truly makes a sustainable, powerful, and empowered human world is not how far we can go, but how deep we are
mhm.
able to root.
Whoa, that's so true.
Yeah, right. It's just like, just think of it like even just what's coming through right now is just think of it of just like, that's like a conquer mentality. How far can I go? Rather than like, how deep can I root?
Yeah.
And so that again, that brings us, and I share this to also get to support more this truth that in these times, and I will say, I'm going to claim it as truth. Because no matter who you are, where you are, what you do, what lights you up, like how you serve, how you create, where you live in the world, doesn't matter. What phase of your evolution you're in, coming back to center and knowing who you are, tending to yourself, purifying your mind, fortifying your spirit, serving the vessel of your body, and being in direct contribution to your community, planting your own food, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
air to all of us. And that's what Grace Lee Boggs talks about. She says, if you want to make an impact, start local. Ask your neighbor what they love to do.
Yeah.
Hey, neighbor, you like sewing? You into gardening? Hey, neighbor, you got fish? Hey, neighbor, like, what do you like to do? Are you a doctor? Hey, are you a healer? What type of healer are you? Right? It's just like, how close can we become? Because if these systems are in fact crumbling on themselves, we get to be able to walk out the door, look at the person that lives next to us, and be like, I know how I can contribute to them and how it is that they can contribute to me. And I know how we can all do that with each other. And that's how we can really become empowered in organizing and orienting ourselves. Otherwise, we're like all gonna be running around with like what is that saying? Like with chickens with their heads
Begins with
cut
their
off,
heads.
chickens with no heads. We're just like, going around. And so those are things that, I feel that in this modern world can perhaps, oftentimes it's a true thing. Not everyone is open to that, right? Like we
Yeah,
can be perhaps living in a city and then you're like, you can be living in an apartment complex and not know shit about the person that literally lives right next to you.
that sleeps your heads
Right.
separated by a wall.
Yeah, literally, and so that's okay.
Mm,
Perhaps like, there's community forums all the time, right? And those are things that, I ask myself at times as well, like living in Arizona, it's just I'm grateful now to get to be connected with community, to get to be present in these.
mhm.
I definitely have a desire to and I know that these are things that are being put into place. Actually, one of my clients is she's putting together this sovereign circle. So it's just like bringing people together and having this conversation, sharing
Yeah,
resources of like, hey, like these are the native plants and these are what you can actually grow here. And just sharing these conversations or even talking about legality things, right? Of just like these are
yeah,
our rights as human beings or these are the things that are being shifted. These are conversations that like we really get to be having. And if we don't have access to that, then how can I, how can we begin to build that for ourselves? How can you perhaps get to start a little garden for yourself or like getting, I've been trying to get my dad with it, like I've been like ever since I got back, I've been just kind of telling my brother, I'm like, hey, you got some pretty good room right there for some beds, or like just little things like that. It wasn't working with him, but I got to my nephew, and my nephew was the one to go to because my nephew was like, Tia Pao, I've been thinking about that forever. So just I think you'd be surprised. I want to encourage all of you to get to start having these conversations with your family, seeing like, okay, which one can I talk to and be like, yo, how can we get some land for the fam? Right? And again, like these are things that um regardless of what path it is that we choose, because I do feel that this is something that a few like channelers were saying like years and years ago, is that we were going to begin to see the reality splitting.
the split.
Okay, yeah, right, like it's like the split
Yeah.
of like perhaps it's looking like I would say, there's like the 2030 agenda, right? So like by 2030, there's
Mhm.
an idea, we'll say, because we're not trying to get banned. We want this to get out to the people. Uh,
Speak in code. No, I'm kidding.
speaking in code, we speak in code. Well, anyways, there's gonna be, look at, we're learning, y'all. We're learning. But we're getting this. What is it? This woman, I love it. She's on Instagram. She's like, we're trying to get the just, serve the people of God. I think that'll help us. Anyways, so this split is that you just think 7 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, the world's going to look completely different. And the idea is that there's going to be the world that is perhaps the modern world, like being heavily integrated with technology. And then there's going to be the world in which we choose to create a parallel system of
Yeah.
or as that we are choosing to create as a parallel system, right? And like how do we like the realities of, well, which world it is that we're going to choose to live in.
Mhm.
I personally feel a bit split myself because I feel that there's so many people that I love that I know are like very much in the world of being governed.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's a it's a sensitive spot in my heart.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so Regardless of what we choose, regardless of how it is that our spirit is feeling, is calling us to show up. Again, the more that we can become more sovereign within our own minds and within our own beliefs,
Mhm.
the more that we can become empowered in our own bodies and our own nourishment of
Yeah.
what we feed ourselves, what we fuel ourselves with. It doesn't matter what reality we end up in 5 years.
Mhm.
You will be equipped with a knowing of who you are
Mhm.
and clarity in how it is that you're being called to serve.
Yeah.
What you got on the split, Chelsea? Tell me what you got on the split.
The split. No. You said it beautifully, and it's true. I've been feeling the split is here, and the split, it's like this it's frequency. It really is this frequency
Mm,
where we are, if we want to get real philosophical on what's happening at this time, like we are embodying more of our source consciousness, right? We are elevating in frequency and we're embodying more God, source, soul in our physical body. And like you mentioned earlier, our bodies, we're shifting so much, but our bodies can't keep up to the pace that we're shifting, right?
mhm,
So there's almost like this split happening where when you start evolving from within, when you start delayering, you become, like you said, more clear. You have more clarity to be a conduit for your truth, for soul, for source. And your frequency elevates and you rise into this next dimension. Whereas, like, once you see, you can't unsee. I guess you could choose to go back here, but you're full on choosing and fully aware of what's over here, but at the same time, this reality within this dimension will also exist. And you can't see what you can't see.
mhm.
Like, I can only see that from here. I don't know. There's probably so much beyond that I have no idea, right? But it's when you start evolving and shifting within that you start to like, you start to discover um, these you start to shift and discover these aspects that are wanting to come through us at this time. And I always say, like, it's a split where you could be standing side by side. Like you said, you'll have family members that maybe are more, they are um, maybe operating within different ways, right?
More
Or
garden inclined.
so you can be standing side by side, you're living in the same world as someone, but you can be having a dramatically different experience
Mhm,
based off your awareness and your frequency that you're holding and experiencing life with. And when you experience life from these elevated frequencies, synchronicities, uh, like creating with life starts changing. You start being more present, you start being more authentic. Those things that you resided with before no longer, like they can't come with you on this level, right?
mhm,
And what's happening right now is I see this split, and it's almost like it's a split where we're going to merge back together, but it's just, I feel part of the process where, like, I see like this shift happening in waves, because if it happened to everyone at the exact same time, then it'd be really like people running around with their heads cut off, which it already is, right?
mhm,
But it's a shift into the heart.
mhm,
That's what the split is. So we're moving into an area which is rooted in the energy of the heart, of
mhm,
love, of God, of source, of the we rather than the I, like of world peace. I know I speak peace and miracles and people can't believe it, but yes, that's literally where we're headed. And there's a lot of
mhm,
us who are experiencing those realities,
mhm,
and we're kind of dipping our toes and kind of as we move into those shifts where I
mhm,
just see But in order to get there, you have to go through, and a lot of people want to stay where they're at because it's comfortable. It's all they've known. Like, how many people do you hear that say that they're scared to go to therapy? They're scared to talk about their feelings. They're scared, right? And that fear is holding people. And the reality is when you just open and allow, and you just like, we're moving from a reality of fear into a reality of like love. And that's the shift. And not to say this is bad or this is better than the other. It's just this cycle, this evolution. And I think you're right, it's like I think that when you are, yeah, when you're allowing some outside source to dictate your well-being and who you are versus trusting the guidance from within and the guidance within these smaller communities, right? It's a different energy. It's a different experience, and you start co-creating with life in a completely different way. I could just speak on this for forever.
Please do. Please don't ever stop, Chelsea. Please keep going. Thank you for that. And one of the things I want to add to your symphony on all of that is it is really important that although there is much illusion that is happening right now, there has never been so much light beaming through our hearts and beaming into this earth than ever before. And that gets to be celebrated, acknowledged, recognized, amplified, illuminated in every single way because it is true. It is so true that because of everything that is happening, because we are interconnected, we cannot escape the greatness, the beauty, the magic, and the light that not only is available to us, that is us in this given moment. One of the there was a message that came through a few years back, and it's that dissolution and distortion are birthed in the moments in which we believe the illusion that we are separate from our divinity in the moments in which we are the most human. And so when we are experiencing the very ickiness of our fucking humanness, we are not separate from our divinity. We are not separate from miracles. We are not separate from magic. We are not being, for any way, shape, or form, being taken away from the worthiness that we are. Like, if we're talking about remembering our wholeness, we get to remember that, yes, like, even if we are experiencing like moments that feel or have a lot of density to them, that doesn't mean that there's no divinity in it.
So glad you spoke on that.
And I was just like, yo, the world. So yeah, thank you.
Oh,
You also supported me in like bringing, and just bringing that into the space, because it's really important to amplify that for sure.
yes, 100%. And it's right. There's divinity in it all,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's like being in all aspects of it. Like there is this level of devotion and divinity into all aspects of life. I think a lot of times we can be hard on ourselves, like, oh God, what's wrong with me? I'm feeling this or going through this. In reality, like, there's nothing wrong with you, you know?
Mhm.
And I think when it's a reframe, even in our perspective, you know? Sometimes, not sometimes, generally, always, the most moments filled with the most divinity in my life have been when I've been on my hands and knees and going through a struggle, right? It's like that's when those are the moments that I'm like really deep in my trust, like that's where it's at, the highs, the lows, the in between. It's all of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All of it is sacred.
All of it's sacred. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whew. How are you feeling?
Like we could go for another 5 hours. Like we should just start a series.
Love that. Oh man. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Paola. I just love this conversation.
Mhm.
Are there
Mhm.
any last words that are on your heart? I'm feeling like I feel like my channel was it, and now it's like, okay.
Mhm.
Like it feels like it's like at a really good, like a really good place.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea, for creating the space for this conversation. And, I guess what I would say in my, um, to conclude on my end is perhaps to really get to like summarize this conversation in that one, shit's crazy. We're being exposed to a lot at a very rapid rate. We get to have compassion for ourselves. To those of us that are being called to serve and to get to be in contribution, it's really important that we tend to the temple of our heart to purify and become really empowered in our beliefs, in our minds, in the stories and the patterns, that we choose things that fuel our spirit, that fuel our body, that we understand that in leadership, we're not meant to have all of the answers because we're not meant to create followers, but rather come together and co create the world that is being called forth from all of us. And that we get to start local, start simple. There's literally the ripple of you taking an exhale because you're letting go of a story, because you're being more compassionate with yourself, because you are getting to eat a tomato that you grew. That ripples in frequency, in vibration. And that, so much of the work that we're doing is to preserve the sacredness of our humanity. And to do that, we get to preserve the sacredness of the seed in our hearts. And coming back again and again, who am I? What do I value? How am I being called to serve in this?
Yeah. Preserve the sacredness of our humanity. That's it.
That's what we're doing.
That's it. Yeah. And yeah, follow those feelings. I keep hearing follow those feelings. If I have any advice for anyone watching this is follow those subtle knowings. They're subtle. Even today I woke up and I knew we were going to meet to record this podcast, and I thought, I need to fill my cup. I just need to be in the garden. There's a million things I could be working on today, and thankfully I have the privilege to be able to say that, to do that today. And if you need to take a day where you have nothing on your calendar and you garden, or you feel like follow those subtle intuitive knowings, because that's where it's at, you know. Yeah, and I never underestimate our capacity to create change. There's we are one of billions, right? So if a billion people are, having this experience where, like you said, they're shifting a narrative or a story or learning how to garden and tasting a tomato like it's the first time again, like the
Mhm.
profundity of that, the ripple, like you said, is beyond what we can perceive. Yeah.
Humanity.
Peace on earth.
Thank
My
you,
goodness,
Kelsey.
Paul. Thank you so much. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for having this conversation. And where can people find you? Or if there's, I know that you are working on your kimono, your custom kimono collection called
Mhm.
Alter, and beautiful kimonos. And you are also a mentor and a spiritual teacher. Where can people find you? And if there's anything you want to share about what you're working on right now?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And yes, you can stay connected with me on Instagram, Paola, Paola Ucelo, UCELO _ and that's probably going to be the place where you can see I'd share a lot of my stories. I share insights on my stories. So on there, that's a way that we can stay connected. Also, if from, listening to this conversation, you're like how can I be just indirect one-on-one connection? You can actually go to my website, and that's paolaucelo.com/offerings. And on there, you'll see that there is a heart to heart. So that's a complimentary deep dive where I get to know a little bit more about you and where it is that you're at in your journey. I also do have spaces available for one-on-one mentorship. So if you are someone that's wanting to dive deeper into your leadership and deepen into the heart-led way of leading and creating a legacy, because there's a lot of people right now, as we're talking about the shift, is
Yeah.
like, we're not here to create a new business, we're here to build a legacy. And
Yeah.
so, deepening more into that, and altar of the sacred, my baby, she is reshaping me in so many ways. And so that is something that I am working on, a collection. But if you are on a path of devotion and mastery and you desire to have a custom piece that represents the prayer that you hold for yourself, for your life, you can also see that. All of this, you can find the ways that we can connect on my website, paolaucelo.com/offerings. And yeah, reach out on the gram. Let me know that you tuned into this podcast, your insights. um, we really all are doing the
Yeah.
damn thing. We're doing it well. Let's acknowledge ourselves, and
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to connect and get to be of service in the best way possible.
Yeah. Paola, you are amazing. Anyone who works with Paola will know she's just, as you can see from this conversation, amazing. And I am always in awe of you. And
Mm,
yeah, to second what you said, for anyone that's watched this podcast where if anything resonated, like I love when people reach out. I'm always curious who listens and watches. And please, like, sh share, reach out, right? Like, comment. It's really
mhm,
important. And it's a reminder that we are not meant to do this alone. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
mhm.